22 when we first started. If we could launch 10 businesses out of this, that'd be a good deal. We normally launch 60 businesses a year in Cochise County through the SBDC.
My personal interest in this is helping people get a business started. That's it. I don't care if I ever got a penny out of it. I really don't. It's just, if I can help somebody else launch a business that is successful, that stimulates the economy here, then that'd be great. That's great. Everybody's going to need some sort of general liability. If you're going to go into business, you really need to get liability insurance. As soon as you hang your sign, somebody's going to say, how can I make money out of suing these people? Okay? It's a statement of fact. And I can get into, well, no, I won't, because Paul will get into the business structures, and I would, you should probably ask him about what other legal representations you may want and or need. From my perspective, let me put the disclaimer out. This is just Ed Molina talking about my experience is what are the mistakes. And I told you the first night that hopefully you learned from some of the mistakes that we made. We didn't have an attorney up front. We said, we're going to be doing the right thing, so, why do I need an attorney? We're not breaking any laws or anything else. Let me tell you right now that doing the right thing is not always necessarily the legal thing. There are distinctions. So while you think you're doing the right thing, you may not be doing things legally. Therefore, you need insurance to protect yourself against those occasions where you think you're in full compliance, you've done everything that you know you should, but there's a little loophole out here that says, no, not so much. There's a new law. Oh, well, I didn't know about that law. Well, too bad. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. You're still going to be held accountable for it, so you need to be prepared for that. So insurance is one way to protect yourself against that. General liability covers a lot of things, but it doesn't cover everything. So you need to look and say, okay, what does general liability cover? Well, general negligence, injuries, payments against bodily injury and those kinds of things. It's a lot like your automobile insurance, okay? Your general liability insurance for your car. That's some of the same things that this general business liability insurance would cover.
I signed up for the Shark Tank. When I read about it, I thought it was a very interesting concept, and it kind of felt miraculous to me because I was right at the point of wanting to not just teach at the college, but add another layer of service. And so when I read about it, I thought, well, that sounds just tailor-made for what I'm looking for right now in my life.
A lot of times they don't care if it ever gets to court because people will settle. It's cheaper to settle than it is to take it to court or to have it run out over a protracted period of time. So those are the things that you need to protect yourself against and have insurance to cover those instances where somebody may come after you for whether it's frivolous or not. It's a fact of life. In my company, what we did is we started a commercial. It's an LLC. It's a wholly owned subsidiary to the main company, but it handles strictly commercial IT services. So I won't go into a lot of that because it would be a direct competition with you. But that's what we do. But that's what protects that. We also have an automobile that goes out and does the service calls and all that kind of stuff. And that's covered under both the professional liability as well as the general liability, because if that car is involved in a car accident, or if it, something happens while that car is operating in the name of the company, then it's protected. It protects the company. You always want to have insurance protect you to the point that it doesn't get into your personal pocket.
The thing about the Shark Tank that I find well, there's several things about the Shark Tank that I find so appealing. One of the things is that the information itself is just fantastic information. Learning about marketing and legal issues and all kinds of aspects. So that learning of the information and applying it to myself right here at this time of my life, I think was just tailor-made for me.
So however you want to do that, and there's a number of different ways, you can talk to insurance companies and or attorneys to get those specifics about how do I protect myself? How do I protect my pocketbook from those things? Well, there's a number of different things that you can do through insurances and legal structures and that kind of stuff to protect yourself from that. But if you're going to be in business, as a minimum, I would say general liability is definitely going to be one of the things that you're going to need.
But if I have professional, do I need general?
Yes.
So
Okay. Yeah, they're not. They don't both cover the exact same things for the exact same occurrences. Of course, Brenda's put down the list of insurances that you could potentially need in your business. Not everybody needs all the same types of insurances. Each business is going to be a little bit different, but everybody's going to need insurance in order to protect yourself and your business. Insurance, very important. Know what you need, know what you want, and then go and shop around. Research it.
Another thing that I think is really important is the networking that goes on. And, my background is in psychology. I teach psychology at Cochise College. And, that social aspect and what that does for motivation and what it does for accountability, all of these different aspects that come into play, the Shark Tank offers. It offers us some structure to keep us working toward our goals. It provides a fabulous opportunity for networking. And one of the things that surprised me the most about it is how many different professionals are being brought in to talk with us and for them to share with us. These business leaders are sharing with us tips for success. So, the Shark Tank is really providing many things to help support people in bringing them to success.
I'm not here to give you legal advice. If we want to do legal advice, two things need to happen. We should be much more confidential, and I should be on the clock. So this is not about legal advice, just so you're aware of that. This is just information that we hope to pass on to you, and hopefully it's helpful in your businesses. Also, I'm not a CPA at all, so we're not going to talk about tax advice tonight. I put that up there because a lot of the differences between legal entities have to do with tax situations. So we are going to talk a lot about tax information, but please be aware I'm not here to give you individual tax advice. Good. So we got that fun stuff out of the way. So the four main categories that we're going to cover are proprietorships, partnerships, LLCs, and corporations. The way we'll cover them is what's good about them, what's bad about them, some of the differences that distinguish them amongst what they are, and maybe help you choose which one might work for you. So let's start with sole proprietorships. I love sole proprietorships. Sole proprietorships is like the good old American dream. I want to be in business for myself. I want to own my own business. Probably a good 60% of all businesses in America are sole proprietorships today. I mean, I'm just guessing at that number, but sole proprietorships make up a large number of our businesses. The reason for that is to do a sole proprietorship, you don't have to do anything. If you just start business on your own and do nothing, guess what? You're a sole proprietorship. You don't have to file paperwork. You don't have to tell anyone that you're doing it. You don't have to qualify for the IRS. You don't have to do anything. Just go into business for yourself and you've created a sole proprietorship. Wonderful to be in business for yourself. I enjoyed it for the years that I did it. Good things about sole proprietorships is you can do what you want. So you got this ingenious idea for a commercial, that you're going to do this fun commercial. Guess who you have to ask permission to? You just do it. You just do what you want because it's your business. You're in charge. You're in control. You make the decisions. So you're on your own and you get to do those things. Let's talk about partnerships. Partnerships and proprietorships are really close to what they are. They're almost the same thing. The big difference that distinguishes them is the number of owners. So if you have more than one owner, you can't be a proprietorship. You have to be a partnership, or one of the entities we'll talk about in a minute. But more than one owner that does nothing to get started, meaning you don't file paperwork for the Arizona Corporation Commission, you just go into business together and there's more than one owner, you're a partnership. So this is kind of a default entity for multiple owners. It could be 2, it can be 4, it can be 100. Limited liability companies, also known as LLCs, really are today becoming kind of the choice entity that many people are going with, mostly because of the flexibility that they offer. So a limited liability company answers the question that you had when I first came in the room about liability. So partnerships, let me go back here. Partnerships and sole proprietorships offer no liability protection. When I talk about no liability protection, what I'm saying is personal liability. Personal liability meaning if you're engaged in your business and someone's hurt, someone receives an injury, or in the event you're engaged in your business and we have a contractual dispute, vendors are claiming you're not buying enough, someone's going to sue you for something. No personal liability means they can sue you personally, because there is no distinguished sector between you as an individual and your business. Proprietorships and partnerships offer no personal liability. Okay? Insurance is great for that instance because they still do offer some sort of protection against your personal assets. If you're sued and a judgment's given against you and your insurance company is going to cover that judgment, you've got some protection there. So insurance is great for that. And insurance for limited liability companies is good as well. Limited liability companies simply say we want to separate you as an individual from your business. Good question. So raising funds. Corporations like to raise funds with initial public offerings, right? So you get 100 people to give you $100. You just raised a whole bunch of money really fast and no one really has a big risk. You don't have that with limited liability companies. You don't have an initial public offering because you don't have shares. So it's more difficult to find people later on to say, okay, I'll give you money, but now I want ownership interest in return, and that can be a difficult thing. So it has to do with shareholders, just by way of how you can raise capital. You can still do loans and stuff, please. You can. Good question. So can you make a change later on? Yes, you can, except you can't change it after the fact. Okay, so if you are a partnership or proprietorship today, it's March right now, let's say your business takes off, December rolls around and you realize that you've got all of this income, that it would be better for you in 2016, it's now December 2016, it would be better for you come April if you could report your taxes as an S corporation. In December you can't change it. You can change it for 2017, but for 2016 you're stuck now, okay? Because you can't change it after the fact. So you can change it the year ahead. You can do that. You had a question as well. We'll cover C corporations and S corporations kind of together because they are both corporations, just governed under a different subchapter of the Internal Revenue Code. So corporations, liability protection just like an LLC. Shareholders own a corporation, whereas members own an LLC. Shareholders, the owners of the corporation, are liable to the extent of their investment. So if you own Apple stock, I don't know what Apple stock is trading at today, like $1,400 probably, I don't know. Anyway, if you own Apple stock, if you own one share, and Apple collapses, what are you out? You're out your one share, right? You just lost your investment. Same thing with other C corporations and S corporations. Even if there's only one shareholder, so if you own the corporation yourself, and you have 100% of all of the shares, you are liable for 100% of whatever value you have in the shares. Okay, so shareholders of a corporation are liable to the extent of their investment, which is why sometimes it's easier to raise money in corporations because people aren't afraid to lose $100, whereas they might be afraid to lose $30,000. Okay. So liability of a corporation to the extent of the shareholders' investments. Other than that, they protect personal liability. So that's good. If you're an owner of a company and you want to have some personal liability protection, corporation. C corporations receive what they call double taxation. Double taxation simply means that when the corporation itself earns money, so a dollar comes into the corporation pays tax on that dollar. That is taxation at the corporate level. So if the corporation is at a 15% taxation level, they pay 15 cents on every dollar that they earn. When the corporation takes that 85 cents that they have left and they pay their employees, the corporation has to withhold taxes again, payroll taxes, and the employees pay taxes on the money that they earn as well. So that's the double taxation. So it gets taxed at the corporate level as well as it gets taxed after it comes through the corporation. Because of that, oftentimes C corporations is not where you want to start. S corporations are corporations that allow the tax entity to not be taxed at the corporate level. So just like a partnership or a proprietorship, when an S corporation has a dollar come into the company, that dollar can flow straight through, not get taxed at the corporate level, flow straight through to the owners of the S corporation, and it's only reported on the owners of the S corporation for tax purposes. Okay? So S corporations don't have the same double taxation as C corporations. Much more likely for small businesses that are just getting started. S corporations have a limited number of shareholders. C corporations can issue much more stock and have many more shareholders than S corporations can have.
My big motivation for starting this business, I have to go back a little bit. The last 12 years of my life, I have spent working for hospice and working with individuals and families. And I decided that I wanted to have a job that was a little bit lighter and that worked with life. And I saw that right now, especially, we're really hearing more and more about how important sleep is and how many of us don't get enough sleep and how it affects us in our lives and how it affects our productivity at work. It affects our relationships because we can get moody and irritable, and it can affect our health. And so I want to be able to help people with being able to sleep better because there is an effective program that helps people. These strategies were researched, and the program itself has been used at Harvard and at Stanford, and so it's been proven effective. It's an evidence-based program that's been proven effective, and I want to be able to help people to get more out of their life, to feel better.
The city of Sierra Vista is going to a lot of effort these days to start mining information from our business license files so that the business owners can get on mailing lists, emailing lists, they get notified of events, things like that. So even if you don't do a lot of business in town, you might find quite a return from your $50 a year fee to have a Sierra Vista business license. Which that's what they cost, is $50 a year. First year you do have an application fee of $100, but after that it's $50 per year, and we do this on a calendar year. We have several types of business licenses. We have just a regular business license. We have a regular business license for if you're a contractor to the U.S. government, if you're a nonprofit, if you're a religious organization, that type of thing, then we give you a license, but we waive the fees. If you're an individual who's starting out and it's really just a hobby, and it's not really, you're not making income yet, we allow you to exempt from the fees and get kind of a hobby license. If you do shows, say 3 or 4 shows a year, we have a 1-day vendor permit that kind of saves you a little money. And paperwork, you come in and get it, and you can go to a craft show or something like that. One of the things the city doesn't do, we do not license occupations. We only license businesses. So if you're embarking on anything that has requirements for certifications, like again massage therapists or doctors or contractors or anything where you have to have that permit from the state, that's where you get that. Our licenses are only for the business, and it just says that your business exists. Tacking on to Brenda's talk, our licenses don't save your business name either. It kind of does down here, but there is no legal standing attached to a name. If you do it in Sierra Vista, we don't check the state.
I believe for the most part that the individuals that take the Sweet Sleep Insomnia program, whether they do it in the group format or they do it one-on-one, that will be, they'll go through the program, which is a 6-week program. They'll go through the program, and after that, I may perhaps down the road offer a refresher course if people might feel a need for that.
If we have businesses that have similar names, we will kind of steer people away or let them know I've already got this. But we do not get into that. It's just whatever someone puts on the paper, and that's your business name in Sierra Vista as far as our concern is. But that there's no legal attachment to that says just because my Sierra Vista business license says this, they can't do it, or you can't do it, or someone in Tucson can't have the exact same name. So I definitely second that advice, that getting to the state level and the federal level, if you've got a name that you want to reserve, do that. Where cities still have the right to be able to regulate what goes on in their city, and that's the businesses. One other thing about that is statewide is most of the cities who have business licenses in this state are called program cities. So if your business involves collecting sales tax, you have to register with the state to get your sales tax license from them, and then you actually remit your sales tax to the state, who then remits it back to the cities and towns you work with. And you get a license, and then you pay a different fee for all the different cities that you might be working in. And so that is one thing at the state level. So you've got your sales tax and your taxes at the Department of Revenue. You've got your occupational licensing, because they're the ones that do the tests and check your creds and do all that kind of stuff to make sure that you are actually qualified to do the jobs you're doing. And that's why I say that's all we do is license the business. And it's confusing to some people, to citizens, when they call in and they have a complaint or they have an inquiry and they want to know, is this person at this business able to be doing what they want, what they say and things, and it's difficult, but it would be a nightmare. It would be a logistical nightmare for us to vet all the employees and vet and make sure everybody's doing everything. So that's why it's good that the state does that, because then I can just say, go on, it's all on their online website. You can check out if people are licensed, if they should be doing things, if they've got history, like when you go and check out a doctor to see if they've got malpractice cases and things like that. And there's a lot of occupations that are managed that way, surprisingly.
When it comes to corporations or businesses, I believe that can be an ongoing relationship, because I feel like it's really important to stay up to date on what the newest information is on these topics. So for instance, with sleep, so much research has been done on sleep, and how it affects our immune system and many other things, and how our brain cleans itself while we sleep. And so these, the new technology about it, all the different kinds of scans they do, all of that bit of business, I feel it's real important to have the most up-to-date information. So I could see businesses and corporations having me do additional workshops or trainings, over the years on the different topics for their employees.
Our intent is not to zonk a whole bunch of people, but at the same time, we don't want to put together something that's just totally ridiculous and have them go up on stage to almost embarrass themselves and everybody with the whole thing. And it's not an embarrassment thing, it's a learning thing. And not all ideas are good ideas either. And so if there's even a spark of something that looks like maybe a good idea, we're going to let them go on, but we'll coach them up a little bit more on what they need to be, how do I want to say, saying and doing.